So Brian says, what's the best way to protect our brand when working with influencers? I'm always worried that they'll post something that doesn't align with our values. So this is a big one because I just went on a rant about how you need to like do their thing, and now you're like, hey, how can I control them? And I think that also like one of the I'm going to let you answer this because you've dealt with this a little bit more than I have in my career, a lot more than I have. But I think that the first question that I would ask myself, the first thing that I would challenge is the assumption that you're making, Brian, that you need to doggedly protect your brand like crazy with influencers. Like, I know that you're scared. Everybody's scared for some reason because the bad things make headlines, right? Like Kim Kardashian, or let's just say huge influencer is working with Reebok, and huge influencer does something extremely controversial that everybody talks about. Reebok dumps them. Reebok takes brand hit. Like, that's not you, probably. So,
Right.
like literally, like if you have some micro or mid-tier influencer that it's like swearing and being all, like occasionally, which is usually the issue, like they'll just say fuck occasionally, and like a lot of brands are like, oh, I don't want to associate my brand with the word fuck. No. Which I just think is a little bit ridiculous. But so I think that there's an assumption there that you need to protect your brand like crazy, and I know that there's all sorts of, but nobody's suing you. You're not going to get any loss of sales because somebody says fuck. It's just not going to happen, despite what you may think or what your emotional state might tell you. But that being said, if we just assume, I mean, but there is like a level of it, obviously. So yeah. So how do you? I guess there's really two questions here, right? If he says I'm always worried about that they'll post something that doesn't align with their values, there's really the proactive and reactive strategy. So proactively, how do you make sure that stuff doesn't happen? And reactively, how do you deal with it when something does happen? Let's dig into that. Why don't we start with
Yeah.
proactively? Like, what do you? Is there like we make influencer briefs for all of the influencers that we work with? Like when we have a client, right?
Right.
That's the place it goes, right?
Right. The
Is that
guidelines. Yep.
enough? Even, yeah. How do you make sure this stuff doesn't happen in the first place?
Yeah. I always describe the brief as it's like a proposal on behalf of your brand to the influencer. So it's like saying a proposal about the collaboration. So it's like, hey, this is what I want to do together. Are you aligned, right? And the influencer, if they say yes and you go off and contract with them, it's an expectation setting document. So you've set that expectation with the influencer of what kind of messaging and content that you want, which is obviously in line with your values as a company. So then later on in the partnership process, when the influencer has consumed your product or service and they've made content about it, use what's called draft review. Use the draft review process, meaning request that the influencer, in your agreement with them, drafts their content before posting it and shares it with you. So this is the process we use every day here at Get Hyped, our agency. Influencers will send us draft content all the time. And when our team reviews the draft content, they're looking for those things that are in requirements in the brief that was provided to the influencer. They're just making sure the influencer did what we asked them to do, and they didn't put anything crazy in there, like you said, like, curses or drug use or other. Most of the time, it's not even those things. It's like other brands, right? And this is more of a requirement, like you said, Matt, for bigger brands out there where like, hey, there's a Starbucks cup in the background. We got to blur that out, right? We can't have that here. Do you care about that as a little brand? No, you shouldn't. You're wasting your time.
But they do. So that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Of
Hey, I
course,
just started my brand yesterday, but I need to defend it fiercely. So make sure that blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I do want to counter to this, and I actually feel like Brian's question has less. I get the sense that it has less to do with the posts that they're doing on the brand's behalf and more about the stuff that they will do like regularly. Like I hire this influencer, I start working with them. They do a couple product reviews for me, and then they like review a dildo and they do something really weird with it in another post. You don't like that. You don't feel like it aligns with you. Like, is there a proactive way to approach that? I mean, it's probably just like how do I vet these people ahead of time? type situation. We can't go, because we're not going to say in the brief, oh, by the way, we also don't want you to make any like videos about dildos for the next 2 months or something like that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, like, how do you do? I mean, I know at Get Hyped we have dealt with this exact situation,
Sure.
where
Many
this
times.
has happened. So like proactively and reactively, tell me about how you like approach those things, because I feel like that's more of what he's asking. Like, what if this influencer goes off the rails on his free time using his influence, but he's associated with my brand,
Right, right. Well, you can protect yourself legally with those influencers in the contract, meaning that you can put those stipulations right in the legal language that you have the influencer sign that says they're legally liable if they do things in the future that will compromise your brand and reputation. Now, is that enforceable? Are you going to get influencers to sign up and say yes to that? That's going to definitely hurt your ability. A lot of influencers are not going to put that liability out there for themselves. So what that's going to mean is less choices for you, and you're going to end up paying more to those influencers for collaborations. So we don't recommend that. And what was the other part of your question, Matt?
Well, like reactively, like something like they do.
Some-
Yeah, something does happen, and then what?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, this has happened to us, and we just reach out to the influencer and ask them to take it down, and they normally will because they don't want anything like malicious out there. But really, like to avoid getting in those situations, it's as simple as looking back at the influencer's post history, like going through their content. We have a couple different clients that we look through the past 30, 60, or even 90 days sometimes of every single content creator's profile. We look at we watch every video they made. We read all of their copy, and we're looking for any, we have tools that help us go through that as well and look for any certain keywords, right? But we're doing a manual review of all their content to make sure it aligns with the brand's values before we partner with them, right? Of the last quarter, the last 90 days, if they made a post every single day or sometimes multiple times a day, and it was all in line, what are the chances that they're going to come up and do something crazy and ruin their own reputation by doing some, low value thing or immoral thing? Chances are extremely low. So vet the person's past. If they have a strong past and they're good values and on brand with you, you're golden.